good evening. This is a work session of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow. We're going to start off with our first discussion item, and that's the recreation report from Mr. Arone, and also a discussion of some of the rules that we should or could implement for our new kayak storage facility at Horan's Landing. Mr. Roan, welcome.
Good evening, everybody, Mr. Mayor and Board. Let's start off with the kayak rack rules and regulations. I believe I sent all of you a copy of a proposed set of rules and regulations for the upcoming kayak rack. Just to give you a quick update on the progress of the kayak rack. We've been working down there for a few weeks on the kayak rack. Wayne has helped tremendously in the DPW with this project. Here's where we are right now. There is a retaining wall built. The posts have been put in, the footings, I should say, have been put in. And this week we are going to pave the area. Then next week we will have our contractor come in and finish building the kayak rack. We're probably 10 days away from it being complete. It looks great. We've excavated the area. We didn't have to move any trees. We didn't lose any parking spots. It's going to be concealed by the retaining wall. We also, not right away, but in the future, we're going to put some shrubbery around the area as well. We're excited. In a couple of weeks, we'll be up and running with the kayak racks. But however, as far as the rules and regulations of the kayak rack, when we open in a few weeks, it's going to be mid-July to end July, so it's not a full summer season. So I made a proposal that we're going to still charge a fee for a kayak rack slip. Most of the kayak racks in the area are charging $300 for a full season. Full season would be maybe April 1st to November 30th to keep your rack on. But because it's half, I'm proposing that for this summer, we cut that in half and charge residents $150. What we will do is we will have our residents fill out an application, a storage rack application form with all their important information, their personal information, their address, their phone numbers. And we've ordered stickers, decals for the kayak rack, sturdy waterproof stickers that we will label, have the renters put on the kayak rack, so we'll be able to identify if people in fact did actually purchase a slip. They will be marked per the year, so we'll know 2019, 2020, and we'll know that the residents are obeying the guidelines and the rules of the storage rack application form. I put together a set of rules. First of all, there'll be 24 spots in that kayak rack. So we'll be able to have 24 canoes or kayaks on the kayak racks. As of right now, I've proposed that they'll be available for Sleepy Hollow residents only on a first-come, first-served basis until all 24 are gone. I'm not anticipating this year that all 24 would be taken up. It probably next year, there's a pretty good chance that we would have that fill up. But I did put together some rules and guidelines for the kayak racks for you guys to review. I know Trustee Scaglione is out today, but she sent an email. She reviewed it. Also, Trustee Levy mentioned something before the meeting that we should encourage people. It may not be a rule that we have to put in the rules, but we should also encourage people not to leave their personal items with the kayaks, like their life vests or paddles or any of their personal items, in fear of that being stolen. But I just want to know if any of you guys had time to review them, and we wanted to had any questions or anything to add or subtract before we open up in a few weeks.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to review the rules and regs. I will do that. My question is, from a security standpoint, is there any security, or is it basically you just put your kayak on the rack?
What the renters do is they purchase it's sort of like a bicycle lock, actually, where they will they're able to lock their vessel into the kayak rack.
Okay.
This is how they do it in the other communities, the local communities that have it. As a matter of fact, that is in the rules, that they will have to purchase their own lock. All vessels must be locked, and the slip holders are responsible for buying the lock. So this will secure the canoe or the kayak so no one can walk off with it.
Are we thinking about putting a camera over there?
Hasn't been discussed right now, but of course that is an option in the future if we think if there's going to be any issues with security.
It's always a deterrent, a good deterrent.
So I see here, one of the operating rules is children under the age of 16 must be accompanied and supervised by an adult. Is that typical of communities that have kayak racks? Is that the sort of standard?
That's an age that I borrowed from other communities. We're doing research to see what the age group was. That rule is on the kayak operating rules, which is more universal for boating. The first 20, 21 rules are more local general guidelines, but those kayak operating rules, those 12, I pulled those off from other, boating, aquatics rules and regulations. So we copied that almost from a nautical or U.S. Coast Guard rules, and we put those together.
Makes sense.
Matt, I just had one question or
Sure.
comment. One of the things that comes up, probably the most frequently of any issue with the kayaks at the beach club, the Phillips Mountain Beach Club, is I lost my paddles, my life vest got stolen. So I would put some language in this contract that says the village is not responsible for lost or stolen items, because that comes up every year.
Number 13, I think, Trustee Levy, lost, damaged, or stolen items are not the responsibility of this
Perfect.
village to
Yeah.
develop. If there's more that you think, please let me know, I can add more.
No, that's good, that's
Okay,
good.
okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So how do you envision this moving forward into next year? So, for example, the people who rent slips this year, do they get a chance to renew, or do we start from scratch? How's it going to work?
They'll have a chance to renew. It will be, if we ever get to the point where this fills up, it would be a first-come, first basis until it fills. But I anticipate we won't fill up this year. Maybe we'll get 12, 15, hopefully this year. We'll ask everybody to, remove their kayaks at the end in the winter. And then early next year, as in February, we start advertising kayak slips for sale. April 1st will be the date, for example, where you could start putting your kayaks on the rack for the summer. That's just a spring. That's just a date, a random date. We can look at the calendar and pick a sufficient date. And I anticipate people coming in right away in February and March, getting their slips to reserve their spot, and then being able to put their vessels on the rack for the spring and April and keeping it there. The whole goal, obviously, as we know, is so our residents don't have to keep putting their kayaks or canoes on their car, driving it home, taking off their car, back and forth. This is the convenience. We want Horan's Landing to be a more active recreation space. The Beach Club, Ossining, Dobbs Ferry, Irvington, they all have these kayak racks. Hastings has a little one as well. Tarrytown has a very small one. It only holds a few, but this one will be able to really assist our residents. So that's what I envision.
Matt, is there a bike rack down there? There should be, right, at Horan's?
No,
Because
there's not.
people tend to ride their bike when they come down to kayak and
Maybe
or
that's
walk,
a project, yeah.
but-
Maybe that's the next project. We throw a little bike
just a
rack down
small
there.
bike rack that holds 6 or 8 bikes and see how it goes.
That's a
because
great idea, yeah.
people get their backpack and they just come down and,
And then ready to
Yep.
go on. Great idea. There are some smaller bike racks,
yeah.
and they look aesthetically pleasing. They just go up and down, and
Mhm.
they're not the old-fashioned ones that maybe would fit the landscape down there.
Right.
So that's a good idea. I'll do some research on that. I envision, also, sorry to interrupt, but I envision that the Recreation Department would be able to take the residents coming in and be able to give out the stickers and take the applications. Perhaps we would leave a few stickers and applications up here at Village Hall as well in case someone comes up here. So, but I envision the Recreation Department doing the heavy lifting on the, being able to take the application, signing off on it, and giving the residents the stickers. And I'll probably be responsible for checking the kayak racks periodically during, once we get some kayaks on there, making sure the stickers are legit. Obviously, if there's somebody there that doesn't have a sticker, we try to track them down and do a little research to make sure we take the kayaks off there.
Matt, in the beginning, if somebody, for example, from Tarrytown comes and says they're interested, what are you going to say to them?
Well, I anticipate giving village residents the first shot. However, if we don't have enough, we have enough space, and the village board and the administration would like to offer it to non-residents, that's not a problem as well. It
Right.
depends, though, on the availability. I always want to give our residents first shot.
Sure, yeah.
So if that's something that you think we should look at right away, we can do that. If we want to wait a little
I
bit,
think we have to look at the demand numbers
Yep.
and just say, maybe next season, how did it go this season?
Yep.
And look at it, but.
I agree. Yeah.
Yep.
What about paddle boards?
Paddle boards, we measured a paddle board. They may fit on the top of the rack. Paddle boards are a little bit bigger. However, it's harder to secure a paddle board compared to the kayaks and the canoes.
Yeah.
So we're not opposed to that, but it's a little bit more of a risk. Paddle boards are different material. You can basically rip a paddle board right out of there if you wanted to. So it's a little bit different, but you could fit them on there on the top rack. Also, I didn't mention, what I'll do is I have to identify each slip, and how we do that is I'll go to the hardware store and we'll buy heavy-duty decals like you would put on the front of your house. So A1, A2, A3, B, columns and rows, so we have each of the kayak slips identified, so we'll know. People can come in and, I can write down, you have B3 or D5, and then we'll know who's supposed to be there in case someone comes in and puts their kayak rack in the incorrect place. So.
Just a quick note for you, on the kayak operating rules, you've got number 1 and number 9 appear to be the same.
I tried to make it look good. I was trying to add things. I'll take 9 out
I mean, it's yes.
Maybe it's so important, I wanted to put it
Yeah,
twice.
I was thinking about that.
Yes, thank you for noticing that. I'll remove 9.
Okay. Look, why don't we do this? I'd like to have the rec department in the position to start, as soon as this thing is ready, to start leasing them up, renting them up. So let's put this on to approve this for next week, and give everybody a chance. If we have any additional comments on any of the rules, we can talk about it before then, add them in then if we'd like. But let's try to get this done. And it's our first time through, so we'll see how it goes. And in December, we can look at what the record was and review and start to think about it next year.
Just one last question, Anthony, is our insurance provider aware that we're doing this?
They will be.
Yeah, and I think it would probably be a good idea for them to take a look at the rules and regulations and just to
Good
see
idea.
if they have any suggestions, comments before we go live.
Idea.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll wait till next week, and then if everything's okay, we can start advertising to the public, and that's good timing, because the kayak rack should be, like I said, within 10 days to 2 weeks, we should be all set. So I appreciate that. While I'm here, just a quick report on 2 things. We gave the progress of the kayak rack, but I want to give you the progress report on the Douglas Park Playground. The playground was installed about 2 weeks ago. And we received the delivery of all the wood chips, the safety wood chips, shortly after that. Our DPW department has moved all the wood chips into the area. The borders, we're surrounding the whole area with borders before we spread the wood chips. The borders will be put in. We have, I think, 84 borders to put around the area we've measured out. Once we put the borders around, the DPW and the Parks Department will spread all the wood chips, because right now they're basically in piles. They've been using machinery to get them in the area. Once we spread all the wood chips, we should be ready to open. The borders are scheduled to arrive today. It'll only take about a day to put all the borders in, so we're probably a week away from spreading those wood chips and being ready to open that park. The material, if you haven't been up there yet or if you haven't seen pictures, the playground units look unbelievable. They fit the scenery up there, and they're beautiful, and I think the families and the kids are gonna love it. I also, we took out, there were 3 old wooden picnic benches up there, so we took those out and we're gonna replace them with 3 nice new ones. And I'm excited when we open up in maybe a week or two, it should be ready. So it looks really nice, and maybe we'll even do a ribbon cutting event or do something up there to attract the residents up there to see the area. Also, teen travel camp started on Monday, which was yesterday. So far, so good. Today, they took 38 kids to Dave & Buster's and Palisades Climb rope course. Tomorrow, they're going swimming in Tarrytown, which is good because it's supposed to be 90 degrees. We have, like I said, 38 kids, and hopefully looking forward to another great summer. Looking forward to it, so we're excited.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Well, the folks from the Sleepy Hollow Triathlon are going to come to a future meeting. We were hoping they would come today. They couldn't. They're going to come later in the month. But if you recall, they were kind enough to, they're going to donate proceeds of the race, which they held, two weekends ago. They're going to donate it to the village to help assist the families in Sleepy Hollow for the teen travel camp that needed assistance for the registration fees. So in a few weeks, they'll be here and they'll do a presentation. We're not sure how much or who's going to come, but we're looking forward to that in a week or two.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Matt. All right, we're going to move on to our next discussion item, which is the EMT agreement. And before I do that, I just wanted to remind people, or perhaps announce to some, that we're going to be seeing something new this summer, Food Truck Fridays, down by the Lighthouse in what is now Edge on Hudson. So with the next few Fridays, the 12th, 19th, 26th, and August 2nd, we'll have food trucks down by the Lighthouse. So it's an opportunity to get down there. Well, yes, there's no park yet, but it's an opportunity to get down on the river, get out by the Lighthouse, spend a nice evening down there, and maybe have some, at least this Friday, barbecue. Or it's either Lila's or Layla's Crepes and Jimmy's Soft Serve. Personally, I'm more interested in the Crafty Q barbecue, but we'll see how that works out. Look forward to seeing people down there. So 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Each Friday this month into the beginning of Friday in August. So hope to see you down there. And it's not the same food trucks every week actually. So it'll be nice, it'll change up, and just sounds like a fun opportunity to be down there. So keep it in mind. 5 to 8 on Friday. All right, Mr. Giacchio. I feel like, on the Tonight Show, didn't they do that with cards and then they toss them and they read
The glass breaks. The glass breaks.
Right.
This is our paid EMT service that we get from Ossining Volunteer Ambulance Corps. This is the agreement. It's the same as last year in terms of the cost. We've had paid EMTs for several years now. It's been successful. It's budgeted, and we just need to renew the agreement.
Does anybody have any questions on this? I mean, given that there's no change, we can either have an ambulance corps or not. This is certainly one of the things that's necessary to keep it going along with our truly dedicated volunteers.
And we do revenue recovery, which helps us pay for the
Mhm.
cost, so.
All right, good. Let's put it on for next week then. We also have an ambulance agreement, an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Mount Pleasant. Mr. Giacchio, anything that you would want to highlight in that?
Just so the residents know, we do service Mechanical Hills with the ambulance, and town of Mount Pleasant pays us for that. The sum of $8,111 for 2019. This is recommended by the ambulance corps.
Again, we'll put it on for next week. We're going to move to our discussion item 5, which is CFA grant application is coming up.
So you have a sample resolution for next week. We have to pass these resolutions next week because the time for the application is the 26th. We don't have a meeting. That's the next meeting that we have before that. We have 4 projects we're going to apply for. The one that you have here is the one that's, we're doing it jointly with the LDC. It's a Climate Smart Communities grant. It's a significant amount. It's $2 million we're applying for. You may recall that last year the LDC was successful in getting $1.5 million for the Sleepy Hollow Common project. This would
158.
80.
So
Sorry about that.
80,000 is real money.
So this would go a long way to helping us cover the costs for that project. We also have 3 other projects that I had mentioned to the board via email. We're going to be applying for another Climate Smart grant to finish out our certification for silver certification, actually bronze certification for Climate Smart classification, and that's one. We're going to apply for a grant for the bulkhead, and we're going to apply for a grant for the bicentennial. I don't have the budget numbers, just ballpark. We think that the Climate Smart will probably be about $10,000 to finish that out. The bicentennial project is, the total project is $120,000, and the village match would be $60,000. And by the way, you'll get all this before next week's board meeting. And the bulkhead could be as much as $500,000 that we're going to be applying for. So those are the 3 projects that the village alone is going to be applying for. Then we have the LDC that we're jointly applying for. So 4 consolidated funding applications that are due on the 26th of July.
Is there a match for the bulkhead?
There'll be a match on all 3.
What's the match?
We're waiting for the report. It's in progress. We expect to get it on Friday. I don't know exactly what the cost will be.
But we'll know that.
You'll know before Tuesday on all 3 of these. We just weren't ready with the budget.
Okay, thanks.
But there's a timing issue here in making sure that we approve this application so we can get it in on time. So we'll put it on for next week, and we'll approve it or not, depending on what we get. So you turn these mics way up. I don't have to lean into it anymore.
Anthony, can you just clarify the first one? You're applying for $2 million?
$2 million with a $2 million match, but you may recall the LDC has borrowed money for the project. So it's really the responsibility of the LDC to cover the cost. But
So this would be for the east parcel?
yeah. So this specific grant is to put to move a DPW out of a floodplain
Right.
in a safe area to a higher ground, and that's what we intend to do with our DPW, so that's what that grant is for.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to move on to the paving contract. Welcome, Mr. Ballard. get that?
Yeah, but there's a map in here you may want to take a look at.
You want us to know what you're talking about? Okay.
So the bids came in for the paving contract, and it was within 3% of what the engineer's estimate was. And as I outlined in the memo, we can award groups A and B. What I had done was, I laid out the groups, which is the package I gave you, for different road segments, because I had to see how the CHIPS money was gonna come in, and how Con Ed was gonna participate. And this gave us a little bit of a shopping way to see what we can and can't afford. So right now, what we can do is award the contract to ELQ, which is the lowest responsible bidder for parts A and B. If you look at the map that I gave you here of the Manors, and I'm sorry for the quality, but I'm just working with what I have. You can see a big significant area is gonna get done here. And where I laid out a black line on the map is some areas that are a little rough in the road system up there. That I'm probably gonna work with the contractor to see if we can switch some areas out so I can cover those particular areas. And I just wanna bring that to your attention. The other thing is that I have ongoing discussions with Con Edison, and that's the Group E roads, where they have, totally torn apart Hudson Street and Lawrence Avenue pretty bad. So I'm hoping that they'll do the entire road. They have our numbers, they're evaluating our numbers to see how they work with regards to what they get with their contractors. And the other thing that's very important is with regards to Lower Beekman, there is an agreement or a discussion going on between Sleepy Hollow, Edge on Hudson, and Con Ed, where the sidewalks are gonna be done, a little bit by Village of Sleepy Hollow, most of it done by Edge on Hudson, and then the lower portion of Beekman will be paved by Con Ed. So we're trying to tie that all in for the fall. And if we can add Hudson and a little portion of River Street, that area will look really nice, which I think is something both the village would benefit from as well as Edge on Hudson to get the area cleaned up. I've been emailing them as late as 4 o'clock today, and I'm waiting to hear from them. I'm calling for a meeting this week to sit them down. I'm not too sure how we could handle this contract. Maybe we need to bring Clinton in to see maybe if we can award A and B, and then if Con Ed comes late to the table to discuss Part E, can we award that at a later time? So I'm not clear on that particular part of it. What's not included in here, but we can work off of unit costs, and I have also offered that up to Con Edison, is Hudson Terrace and part of East Street. There's a little part that's torn up there that they would like us to take care of so they can clean up the whole area. Once the contractor is on board, like I said, I can fine-tune the map a little bit to try to cover as much of the rough areas as we can. The DPW will be doing the labor-intensive drainage swales that are out there. That is an astronomical cost that would have cost us a lot of money in the bid, so we're prepared to take up on that. And I think that's pretty much the scope of work.
Yeah, I've just got a question on the second page on the maps. So this shows Sleepy Hollow Manor.
Correct.
So is it the black lines that are being paved or the whole?
Well, everything
map?
that's highlighted, so it would be,
It's hard to tell. on the
Yeah.
map.
Yeah, I can't really tell.
It's most of it. It's most of it.
here's my original.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the printer I have, but
Yeah, okay.
see, this
No,
is,
that's
these
fine.
are just a
So
little
it'd
rough.
be Lakeview, Evergreen, Pocoho,
Yeah.
or part of Pocoho, by Fremont Pond, and Kingsland,
And Fremont
and
Circle.
Fremont.
When do we expect to do the project?
I want to be in there on August 15th, and I want to be done by August 30th on the Manors. Sleepy Hollow the Lower Beekman area will be a separate mobilization, and we're looking for mid-September to get in and take care of that, because we have to take care of all that concrete work. That's the
So-
goal.
If I understood you, you're saying we could award part of this, and you're still waiting for clearance from village council on doing more than that?
So where we're at is this, we definitely want to do A and B, we have enough money to cover that portion. If Con Edison wants to take advantage of our bid, we could award the bid and they would pay for it. That would be this E that Wayne is referring to. The reason why that's a good, for the village is because it's cheaper and they could probably do more for us, Con Ed, than they would normally do. They'll do half the street normally. If they get a good deal, piggyback on ours, they could do the whole street, for example. So we want to give them the opportunity to take advantage of it. We may find out by next Tuesday that we're ready to go with Con Edison, and we could award the bid same time as the other piece.
Okay.
But I don't know if we want to extend it. If Con Ed isn't going to make a decision by next Tuesday, then I'm not sure we want to extend it anyway.
So we should expect to approve A and B,
Yes. And
Okay.
maybe E if Con Ed
maybe
responds.
the other, okay.
Have you had preliminary talks with them?
Wayne has.
Every day.
Okay.
This
And
is a
your-
great
your sense-
opportunity for
Your
them.
sense is that they're looking to do this?
You know what the problem is? They've gone through 3 people who retired in the position. And every time somebody retired, I had to re-educate them, walk them out there, talk to them. So I'm on my 3rd person right now. But Sue Kelly did good by us saying goodbye, right? She gave us $190,000. That was her last thing she did for Con Ed, which I thought was very nice. And it all came together. We had the CHIPS money, 266 to 190, and then some more money came in from the fund, the Extreme Weather Fund, so.
This is not, no money is being borrowed by the village. We're paying for use CHIPS money and the Con Edison money.
The parts of Beekman, the lower parts, I just had a question about that because I thought we were gonna wait a little bit until the work was almost completed or Edge was, part of their contract with us in the special permit was to repave lower Beekman.
So actually, I did want to talk to Sean because we're getting a lot of trucking now.
Yeah, I saw a
Now,
bunch of
there's
trucks
lot- I
today.
think what they're bringing in is a lot of topsoil.
Right. Would it make sense to
it
pave
would-
that with all that work?
It would make sense if that work is, to wait till that work is done, I would agree. We were told that the majority of the trucking was over with, but
Right.
of late, they've been going down there. But yeah, it would make sense.
But
to
I
hold
think the section from Beekman out to the Tarrytown line across River Street should definitely be looked at and paved because that's kind of torn up over by Haran's,
Mhm.
it's been torn up and the trucks shouldn't be going in and out that way. So, Hudson Street is definitely in need of, it's a mess and,
They tore that one up curb to curb,
yeah,
all length, yeah.
so I would like to see that in Group A actually. but-
Yeah, no,
No,
they-
they're gonna,
But
again,
that's, I'm
they're gonna
sure
do it
you've,
regardless. They
Right.
have to do curb to curb at the
Right.
bottom of Beekman. that's all.
Hudson.
And Hudson as well.
it's just, do they want to take advantage of this, or do
Right.
they want to bring their own contractor and do it? That's
No,
really
this
what-
is a great option for them, and they should
Yeah.
jump on it, Wayne. Thanks for putting this all
Yeah.
together, it looks great, and I know it's a lot of work and
Yeah.
a lot of time emailing and phone calling,
Yeah,
It's,
Thank you. All righty.
Great job, thank you.
Wait, don't go anywhere. So he has a couple personnel items. He wants to hire, do we want to?
I know, and I'd like to hold those to the end.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry,
sure.
just in case there's any confidential information that we may need in order to help us make that decision. So we'll hang on to that. So rest your heels, please. So thank you for this presentation as well. We're going to move to our discussion on Edge on Hudson. The planning board has asked to discuss a couple of things with us, and there's a memo that had been circulated. So Marjorie Shu, the chair of the planning board, is here, as well as Dave Smith, longtime planning advisor to the village, or the man who knows more about Edge on Hudson than anybody else wants to. How's that?
That's some introduction.
Yeah.
I like that, thank you.
We're gonna get you a car, name tag with,
Okay, the man who knows,
yeah,
Make a tattoo.
I don't know if I'm ready for that yet.
on the forehead.
The
Welcome
man
back,
from the edge.
Thank you.
both of you.
So, I'll, brief introduction. The planning board has received an application from Edge on Hudson for their Phase 3 infrastructure work. There are a couple of elements of that application that differ from the Riverfront Development Concept Plan. And this issue isn't anything new for the board. You had this the same time that Phase 2 came in before the village, and there were some issues there, and the planning board said we need to have some guidance from the village board on changes to the Riverfront Development Concept Plan. So the memo that I prepared dated July 3rd includes several graphics, includes a copy of the Riverfront Development Concept Plan, which is the companion piece to the special permit. And then I'll briefly summarize the 3 elements in the application that differ from the Riverfront Development Concept Plan. The first is what's referred to as Road 2 on the Riverfront Development Concept Plan. It's referred to as Palisades Boulevard now on the proposed plan. Yes, Glenn?
Should we be looking at a certain page here?
You could start with the Riverfront Development Concept Plan, and Road 2 is the road that runs towards the river. It's closest to the hotel, if you see Block R. This is the Riverfront Development Concept Plan.
Okay.
Yours is smaller. It's a lot smaller.
I didn't bring my glasses.
They didn't print it 11/17, okay. So that roadway configuration includes a planted median, and that was a design concept that was part of the initial planning for Lighthouse Landing, or now Edge on Hudson.
If it's easier, and anyone wants to look at it on the laptop.
Can we connect it?
You have all these on?
HDMI?
What about Sam's screen,
Is that one working?
We have a seat for you over here.
He wants his screen.
Heads up.
We already lost the remote.
They want.
We already
his
lost the
screen.
remote.
Great. So the first element is Road 2. Margie, can you just run the scroll across Road 2?
Okay.
Another way.
Good, that's it. Good, perfect. So Road 2 extends right here, runs to water, and the road configurations were purposely designed like that, so the roads faced the Hudson. And the concept in the Riverfront Development Concept Plan was to have this as a planted median, very elegant approach to the river, and as a very stately address on the site plan. So what the applicant has proposed, if you could switch to the next.
Well, it's similar to the change during Phase 2, right? It was a similar planted
Yes.
median that they opted to,
Yes, and the reasoning that they suggested reducing or eliminating the median in Phase 2, let's scroll back.
Say,
So they had indicated that there were changes in the code that required different roadway widths. And so
The state code.
it's the,
DOT?
it's the international, international fire code, which is related to the state. That's not my expertise.
Right.
And so,
Just
they-
wanted to clarify that it's
Yes.
not the village code.
no, it's
that's
not the village
changed.
code, right?
Yeah.
And so as a result, we said, okay, that's fine, then we'll make an accommodation to eliminate the planted median as part of Phase 2. However, for Phase 3, that's not a certainty. We're not, the village isn't necessarily saying we're going to eliminate just because of the code. You may have to think of the design differently in order to accommodate that, that design feature. And essentially what they were saying is that here's the right-of-way, and once you have parking, and then you have the extended roadway width, it only leaves you a much narrower median in order to be planted. And so as we're thinking through this issue, that may not be the only way of looking at how to address this. You may say, start with the planted median. What's the flexibility that the village has as far as the roadway width, and then parking on the side, and then that's where the building lots start. So there are two ways of thinking, but they're thinking of it obviously in their own economic self-interest. And here I think this is something that the village wants to think very carefully about, whether they want to give this design feature away or give this design feature up.
So basically eliminating the median is really what they want to do, right?
Correct, correct. And based on some preliminary feedback from the building department, there's flexibility in the code so that there may be an opportunity to accommodate the planted median as a design concept, to still accommodate it as a design concept.
So what do they propose to do in lieu of eliminating that median? Did they say this?
It's just they'll provide planting on
Food trucks on
either
the
sides,
sides.
and,
Yeah, so they're not giving us anything for taking
they haven't
this
presented anything.
aesthetically pleasing feature.
That's correct.
And-
Marjorie, the changes we made in Phase 2, I believe we maybe that was,
I'm guessing it's
That was
this
something.
Road 3.
It's Road 3.
Yeah, right here.
so I think
Where-
what they proposed to us was that they were going to bump out the green space adjacent to the building prior to the sidewalk starting. So,
Right, that's what they're proposing for this Phase 3 as well.
right, and one of the things we were concerned about was, are they going to attempt to do this with the whole, development, which personally, I really think those medians add a real, nice aesthetic, also green space, trees, in the future when they grow. And I was concerned about that. But when they start saying, there's fire code that we have to adhere to, everybody backs up. But now they could actually potentially make their buildings smaller and allow for these medians to be there. And the other question I have is how much money are they going to save by not putting these medians with granite curbs on both sides? And what, is this a financial, is this driven by a financial need, or is it, I just think
So-
there's an opportunity here to do this right and to make it look really good. And those medians are special. Not every community has those. And I think we should do everything in our power to work with them to see if we can keep them.
Well,
I think they perceive that the precedent was set with the Phase 2.
Yeah.
And so now they're asking for the same thing for Phase 3. And so we did raise the point of, pushing back on the lot. And I also, given that they're not planting trees, I suggested that they, in lieu of planting the medium, contribute towards tree fund. So Peter said he'd take that back.
I agree with John about just the, what it will look like. I mean, I think there's a certain elegance that
Yeah.
comes from having the medians, having planted medians. And I think that was why they're there in the design guidelines. And this is, we're charged with following through on a lot of work that was done before, and also what it's going to look like for the very long term. And I think it'll be better with the medians in it. I think about some of the, what pops into my head right away is really large avenues in the city, and medians are great. The other thing that pops into my head is if there's the ability to play with to work with rather, the width of the street, of the driving area of the street. It's like, okay, we'll go back and work on that. Because one of the things that we've learned, because it's been repeated again and again, is a narrower street is actually a safer street. A street with a
Easier
median
to cross.
and parking people are going to go slower, and that's a long-term benefit as well. I remember being afraid that they would come back and ask for
Yeah.
everyone. My feeling is like, hey, you want some guidance from us? Make them go back and work it out. We don't want to give this, that's my feeling on this.
The other thing is, why would they say that it's a safety concern now? Didn't they have engineers design this and say, hey, we have to have this at a certain width in order for safety vehicles to pass, safely? So I don't like their rationale. I think it doesn't really hold water for me.
Well, I think the issue is that there needs to be safe circulation for emergency vehicles. There's flexibility in that design. What they were saying is that they started out with a finite width of the roadway, and they just went, all right, we need to have this, and we need to have this, and that only left a tiny sliver for a median. And I think the opposite is really, you should start with the planted median, and then get the roadway width, and then get the parking, and then that becomes the width that you need to work with.
But
What that exact width is, I don't know.
it's not like the land shrunk, right? I mean,
The code changed.
they
But-
knew what they were working
Yes.
with from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Well, this is the essence of our planning board's mission, is to have them say, or tell them it's a 5-foot median in the middle of the road. You have to work backwards from that, and I appreciate Marjorie coming tonight, but were they invited? Was Edge invited to come tonight to talk about this, or?
Well, we
Would it-
essentially said that the special permit was, granted by the the
Right.
board, so they should actually come here if
Right.
they want to make changes to the special permit.
Unless they can sell us on something different, I don't understand why we would approve what we did initially, which was sort of under the gun, But we have time here, and I think we should do this right.
So what I think would be good is for us to just say, no, we don't want to change it. And then they'll, and as you've suggested, you've got to work it out with them. Say, okay, guys, here's whatever it is, work from there.
Well, I personally would like to hear their point of view. I mean, there are a lot of variables here, the median, the road, the building lot. Why did they decide on the plan that they presented to you? What are the other options? Where is there flexibility? There's things to consider. It's not so black and white.
Right.
There's a lot of options.
And they came to us last month just as a preliminary discussion, so they weren't, making a hard, fast proposal. So I think here's the opportunity. I would suggest that we review the other two changes that they are proposing and get some alignment between BOT and the planning board. And then ultimately, I would like to redirect Edge on Hudson to come here and present their point of view.
Well, this is something that we should get used to seeing. I think the
Yeah.
planning board's going to be coming before us, you're going to be coming before us from time to time saying, hey, the way we read all the existing stuff is we can't tell them that it's okay to do this.
Mm-hmm.
We can't give them, we can't approve what they've requested.
Right.
So what do you want us to do? And so in this case, we might end up with all three of these saying, no, we're not giving you approval to change any of these things. Go back and tell them that, see if you can work it out. if they feel like they need something else and want to, and really, then they want to come to us and make an
Yep.
argument, then they can schedule to do something. But this is really for us to say to the planning board, give you some direction and say, okay, this is what I'm going to tell them. And we should expect as a board that this is going to happen every few months, maybe every several months, but you'll come back and say, okay, now it's, they do want to build a hockey rink, and be quiet. And we'll get that, provide that guidance.
Okay,
Then you can blame us.
perfect. Okay,
Okay, I'm going to go through the other two.
What's
Yes.
the,
So the other two design items, the plaza area. This is the proposed hotel, Block R. This is Block Q, which at the time was proposed for townhomes. And there was a proposal for a plaza that would be available at certain times where you could close off the streets and it would become a public gathering spot. Very
Would be-
big area,
an event space.
event space.
Yeah.
Right. And we've
Is
included,
it covered, or is just,
no, it's open.
okay.
The design guidelines, there were a couple of pages about the hotel waterfront plaza.
Yeah, there were some concepts on
Yeah.
this page.
So it talks about, and this was, again, it was a very important part of the design guidelines, that here's an opportunity every so often that this space becomes a truly public space, no cars, and you can have all sorts of events. You had the music event or the carnival down, you could have the same thing here. You could have street fairs, farmers markets, all those types of big celebrations. So it was an important part of the planning process, the public space planning process for the site. And Marcia, could you go back to the concept plan? So what they have done is one more, I'm sorry. So they've taken the design concept and they've reduced the size of the plaza fairly substantially, essentially eliminating this piece. So their reasoning was that they had some preliminary design concepts for the hotel, and that plaza design didn't work with the activities of the hotel, checking in, which may be true, but I haven't seen any of the design concepts, the conceptual layouts for a hotel. Glenn, I don't know if you have as part of your meetings with them.
no.
So we kind of had to take it on faith that the layout for the hotel necessitated some changes. They also indicated that part of the open space, the waterfront open space planning, there were some elements of this kind of creating a streetscape public event space that would happen on the water, and that's why this space didn't need to be as big as it was, because there were other activities, there were other areas that would accommodate those types of activities. But again, the planning board hasn't seen any of that, even at the conceptual level of the planning going on behind the waterfront open space. So the planning board is kind of left with, well, you're saying this, but you haven't shown us any of some of the details that
Yeah,
would
I mean,
actually
it's
allow us to
an
make an informed
incomplete
decision.
conversation, right? We need to know why it doesn't work. Let's see the plan and tell us what you have in mind that is the option that they're supporting. We're in the dark here.
Yeah, I mean, why even bring this to us? This doesn't make any sense.
Well, we kind of, the planning board has to,
No,
because
not
the
you,
applicant.
not
yeah,
you, I'm
right,
not saying you. Why would they even propose this to the planning board
right,
if they don't tell you what they want to do, and that we can consider it fairly?
Well, I mean, illustratively, they are saying that with the hotel going over here in this R block, that face of the building that's facing that big oval is gonna be the check-in, check-out area for the hotels, and that's that's where there's gonna be,
So the
you know,
building's
valet
gonna go
parking.
way out to where the red line is.
So they're planning on increasing the size of the building?
We don't know.
Okay.
See, this is the thing, we're asking, we have, you know, it's
So,
not even worth having a
guys,
conversation about.
I think this is a no, and so you can, no, we're not going to do this, and for whatever argument you want to make, but like, obviously, we don't have, we see no, you're not presented, you haven't been presented with any compelling reason to do this,
Right.
so you can't give us any compelling arguments. And it's also, I think, you know, we're kind of into that part of this development where there's going to be a lot of this push and pull, and it's like, no, there is a design, there is design guidelines, there are these pieces. We really are serious about this. We want you to build it this way. You know, show us why it's not possible
Yep.
before we're going to consider something.
I just have a question. If you could push it up a little, Marjorie, thank you. So it looks like in this rendering that has become a roadway now. Like you drive your car in, it's gray, right?
It was always a roadway,
Yeah, there's
and
always
so
a
It
now
it
they're,
doesn't look like that in the first picture, but it was always a roadway. So how is it a green space? How is it a
it's
plaza?
that oval in the middle of
That's
that
the
gray.
plaza.
That's the plaza. So it was always envisioned as a roundabout kind of
Okay.
thing, and along.
Because it
the-
doesn't look like that in the first picture that we were
But
looking at.
in fact, it's
like-
all hardscape, but in fact, there would be a roadway.
Okay, so they're saying the cars are going to come in there and they're going to stop and
See how much
you
bigger
can check in and get your car and go park it.
Yeah, so originally that oval extended all the way to
Yeah.
the waterfront park, but now they want to truncate it because.
There's no roadway in that picture.
Yes.
It is actually a roadway.
So it says Road 1 on the lower part there. The plaza's,
The road comes here, and then
all
there's
right.
a lane here.
And those are parked cars? Is that what those things are? Okay.
So if in
But
fact
that's a
that,
significant
Yeah.
reduction.
well, if in fact that's check-in, check-out for the R Hotel, I mean, why would you put an event space there with all that traffic? I don't know.
Well, most of the times when you check into a hotel, you drive into underneath their building, and there's like a kind of a U-shaped turn that you get out of your car real quick and you run in, and then it's not, you know.
Well, I think the ingress would come along the left side of that oval and then have to do that U-shape and then turn right into the garage, you know, valet parking or whatever. So,
They're certainly not giving us a compelling reason to make any changes. We need more detail, more rationale, and hopefully they'll provide that to you
Yeah.
soon.
yeah, and it's really early days. I mean, it's not like anyone's negotiating on the R block right now, as far as I'm aware. You might have better insights as to, you know, who they're talking with on.
They haven't mentioned it. They're still hard at work on negotiating on the balance of Phase 2.
Right, right.
Can I make a recommendation to the planning board? And if you could pass this on to Edge to say, okay, you want to do something different with this space, can you illustrate for us what it is you'd like to do and why? That would be helpful.
Yep.
Okay.
So the third element is in the O and P block, they have eliminated what was Road D, and it's referred to, I guess it's been named Sleepershaven. So the only explanation that they provided is that they want to have more flexibility in design in the layout for those two blocks. And that's why they're asking for elimination of a to-be-dedicated road to the village.
So,
It's not good enough. What do you mean flexibility? What do you want to do with it?
Yeah, I think those two blocks were envisioned as townhouses.
Yeah.
But they're, I guess, hedging their bets at this point.
Yeah, I can think of at least one reason not to eliminate it, and that's certainly fire safety and other emergency vehicles. I mean, that's a pretty big lot, and you'd want to have access there. But I think Glenn already said it.
We need answers.
Okay,
So, great. I hope it's just easy next time. So,
we'll do our best.
yeah.
Okay, thanks for the guidance, and we'll provide that
Yeah,
back
thanks.
to Edge even prior to the next meeting.
Yes, I think just as, one thing, Mayor, I think you've mentioned in the past that as we're going through this process, there needs to be coordination on submissions, and I know, Glenn, you've been meeting with the Edge folks, and at one point, there were meetings with Clinton and myself, and I think there's a frustration here that they've come in with this application, and they didn't communicate what they wanted to do, and so now there's a real frustration because we're spending time where we could have perhaps addressed some of these issues before the submission and gotten resolved. So that's, personally, that's my frustration, is I don't want to sit here, waste your time on these matters if we could have adequately addressed them ahead of time, and provided everybody with answers and rationales as to why they want to move forward with a certain proposal.
That's fair, and we'll have a conversation to make sure they understand that this could be avoided. We don't have a schedule that we adhere to in terms of meeting every other week. It's on an as-needed basis, and I'm surprised that this hasn't come up, and that'll be addressed.
We're here every Tuesday. They can,
God bless you.
they can come up.
Most of us are here every Tuesday.
All right,
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you both.
Thanks, Marjorie.
sure.
Thanks, folks.
So we are having some technical issues with our audio-visual equipment. So I'm going to take advantage of that because we need to speak to Wayne Ballard about a personnel matter. So I'm going to ask that we go into an executive session to discuss a personnel matter. I think it's probably going to take 5 minutes or so to get through the technical issues, and then we'll come back and complete the other items in our meeting.
Marjorie, thank you.
Hi, Marjorie.
Can I get a motion to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter?
Motion to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Well, that was unanimous.
Thank you for not putting into the development.
Yeah, let's step in here anyway.
It looks so nice.
I'm not in favor of it either, but, I'm always
check, check, check. Check, 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 check. Check, check, check. Check, check. Check, 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 check.
Thank you for your patience. We just ended our executive session, which we called to discuss a personnel matter, or personnel matters, rather. We took no action, and we are back into our work session. So I believe we have one more item left on our agenda, and that is the agreement that we have with Rotfeld Engineering. Mr. Giaccio?
So we've used Rotfeld Engineering for many years. We do have had a professional engineering services contract with him, his firm, but he would like to renew it. It's basically similar to what we've always had with him. He sold his firm to a larger firm, so he's absorbed by a larger firm, but still provides the same services for the village, but he wants to formalize the relationship we have.
Sort of recognize legally that it's
Yes,
not the same firm,
correct.
same people, but, okay. Any other changes in the agreement?
You know, I'd have to really look at it compared to the last one, but I don't think the salary
Yeah,
fees are
the
different.
hourly rates? Yeah.
I would refer this to the, to Clinton
Uh-huh.
as well. I would say this, we use Mr. Rothfeld kind of as we need him. They do attend all the planning board meetings, but we don't always use them for our projects. We pick and choose which engineers are appropriate for which project. So it's not like it's exclusive. And we do know that he's an expert with water, so we usually use him for water projects. And we use him for the planning board and then some other projects periodically. So I did want to say that it's not exclusive. This is not the only engineer that village uses.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I kept Wayne here because I know Wayne works closely
Yeah, I was
with him.
gonna just say, would you say that the department heads that work with the firm are all very comfortable and,
They're extremely responsive. Sometimes the reports that I give you, they are the ones that generate some of the verbiage for me. And when I need something, they're there, and they've been very responsive with all our projects. And you'll see in the next couple of months, the paving, and then the curbing, and then the air brake tank that we have to take care of, and the bulkhead, it's all gonna fall into place. And being that I'm an engineer and they're an engineer, and I used to do that kind of work, I kind of know how to push them and manipulate them so they're responsive to us. And they're so close, they're right here in Elmsford, which is nice, so I can stop in on the way in or the way out and see them. And the wealth of knowledge that they have of the area is incredible for me, because I'm a new guy here, but they know, they're like a rich, they're walking around, they got it all on their mind, whatever the stuff is, so. The continuity would be great for me, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
building department feels the same way?
Yes.
I'm good.
So what we'll do is have Village Council review the contract, and if there aren't any changes to be made, we'll put it on for next Tuesday. Or if there are changes to be made, then make sure they get circulated ahead of time. And we'll go from there. Okay. I think that completes our work for the evening. So thank you and good night.
All right, thank you.
Good night.